morning, everyone, on Zoom and on YouTube, and welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax, established in 1837. My name is Jessica Friesen, your music director and coordinator for our summer services. During this time, we will have a variety of services featuring other UU congregations from across Canada. And today we will be hearing from Reverend Jessica Rodello for the second time from the Grand River Unitarian congregation. Our minister, Reverend Norm Hofker, is now on vacation with his grandbabies for the month of August. And Marie-Claude Leroux, who is off now until mid-August, is our director of exploration, religious exploration. So John Piccolo and Paul Galbraith are our volunteer technicians, and John is doing it today. Eleanor Reynolds is our service assistant. So thank you, Eleanor. During the service today, the chat function will be open, and I invite you to extend our hospitality as always by saying hello to one another that you do not recognize or by leaving a message for us. If you are not already receiving notifications from our church and you would like to receive updates on our activities, please send me an email at jessicafriesen876@gmail.com. The order of service was sent through UU Info yesterday, and they include two announcements. So our first announcement is that Nova Scotia is in the recovery plan. However, we are staying to our church plan of 15 people at the maximum in the church due to social distancing. So as always, please contact Margaret Galbraith if you would like to attend a Sunday service. And you can reach her at margalbraith@eastlink.ca or her phone number, which is found in the announcements. And the second announcement is a reminder for the in-gathering service on Sunday, September 12th. Seems a far ways away, but this service will mark the beginning of a new church year and hopefully a true in-gathering following our COVID. Oh, and Norm wrote this, diaspora. As is our tradition, we will be celebrating a blending of water services, where every member of the congregation is invited to add a small amount of water to a communal bowl, symbolizing our creation of community from a diversity of backgrounds. So, over the summer, you are invited to collect a small sample of water that is meaningful to you. From your backyard to the beach, from the tap, from a rainstorm, it's up to you. We expect that some people will be participating in person and some via the internet. Regardless of your attendance in person or online, bring along a small sample of water that has meaning for you. That is a message from your worship team. So now I have the pleasure to introduce our prelude, which is Spirit of Life. However, the first bit of it is done in Spanish, and Kevin Pummett from the Grand River congregation is doing the vocals, and Sean McCain is doing the piano. So please enjoy.
Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón, cántale compasión, sopla al volar, sube el mar, hasta moldear la justicia y la vida, ariágame, libérame. me, frente amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
That was beautiful. And now we will be going to Eleanor for our offertory.
Good morning. The Offertory. The summer months are often a time of reduced giving. Your early donations are welcome. They can be made by transfer to treasurer@uuch.ca or by check mailed to the church. The details will appear on the screen.
Eleanor will now also read our chalice words. They will actually be on your screen, and I will light the chalice after.
Both flame of light, life and blight, blaze again in our hearts and minds. As we join together in this space, made sacred by our aspirations, let us celebrate the gift that is our life and seek the great love that joins all beings as one.
So now we will have the opening hymn from Grand River. We know this hymn, Come and Go With Me. This is done by Curtis Dewick and Rich Hertzak and Stephen Priest, vocals and piano. So please enjoy and sing along.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land.
I finally get a break from singing, but I miss it. I've been singing right now, clapping my hands. So now we are going to hear the call to worship. So please sit back, listen, and now let's hear from Reverend Jess Rodello. Never mind. We are now going to see Alan for our land and reconciliation. Thank you so much.
Hi. This year, the climate system has been expressing its dissatisfaction of how we've been treating our planet through fire, flood, heat, drought, storm, and pestilence. The destruction is being directed at both the rich and the poor countries of this planet. Sea level rise has led to the abandonment of several islands in the Southwest Pacific. Next week, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is expected to release the first volume of its 6th assessment. This volume will assess the current state of knowledge of the climate system and its likely evolution over the rest of the century. Looking over the authors list, I was happy to recognize only 2 colleagues of my generation. All the rest have retired, and hopefully new ideas have taken root. I hope that the press will report on this document and that the policymakers will revise their understanding of what needs to be done. Science always changes. The assessment will be available on the web, and I would encourage people interested in the climate system to read the summary for the policymakers, which are provided as a separate document. So you don't have to read the 1,000 words, pages. You can get away with reading 30. This assessment was delayed. It was originally planned to be completed 5 years following the 5th assessment, which was published in 2013. However, putting together an international document with the planet fighting pestilence is difficult. The new assessment will more strongly deal with the issue of methane. Methane is a much stronger greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. But in its lifetime in the atmosphere, after about 25 years, it decays to carbon dioxide. We don't know its sources so it's hard to manage something that you don't understand. We have just developed a sensor that can measure methane from space. This should help. Methane sources are believed to be warming peat soils, leaky oil and gas wells, particularly shale wells in the United States and Russian wells, both gas and oil. And of course, our farting cows. For the first time, the 6th assessment will have a section on the attribution of events in climate warming. Climate scientists have always ducked that question because we haven't had methodologies agreed on how to make that assessment. I hope this assessment will provide some reasonable protocols to back such attributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for speaking about the climate crisis. And I would like to acknowledge that we are on unceded territory of the Mi'kma'ki. So now this is a portion in the Grand River Unitarian Church that I very much admire. It's the call to worship. And she talks about the beginning of what the service is going to be about. So now let's hear from Reverend Jess Rodello.
Audacious, plain, possessed of an unwomanly arrogance, genius, bad-tempered, vain, mercurial, habitually sneering, he-woman, an encyclopedia moving in blue stockings, scandalous, ugly. These are all words used by her contemporaries to describe Margaret Fuller. Her biographies are littered with references to her unladylike demeanor, her dress and appearance, her rumored love affairs, and derision about her self-aggrandizement. Mostly things that biographers of male counterparts approach without the same judgment. But by all accounting, Margaret Fuller was a woman ahead of her time, perhaps ahead of any time. Contemporary critic Edgar Allan Poe once described 3 classes of humans: men, women, and Margaret Fuller. Kimberly French wrote in UU World magazine, "If Unitarian Universalism were the sort of religion that canonized saints, then Margaret Fuller would be Our Lady of Wisdom and Wit, Equality, and Social Justice. Or, if we were completely honest, we might have to call her Our Lady of Perpetual Obscurity." Sarah Margaret Fuller, born to a Unitarian family in 1810 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, was one of the 3 principal thinkers of the Transcendentalist movement, the vanguard theorist on women's equality and gender roles in America, and, some say, the first public intellectual in the United States, male or female. Yet a lot of us, perhaps even most of us, have only a vague idea of who she was. In her relatively brief life, she accomplished a staggering list of firsts and milestones. Furthermore, Fuller's visionary ideas on the need for both social and personal transformation, rationalism and mysticism, intellectual freedom and religious pluralism, and democracy and human rights outside our borders all resonate with modern Unitarian Universalism. So come, let us consider the influence of this singular life. Come, let us recenter the voices and visions of those on the margins. Come, let us celebrate together.
This is a sacred time in our service, a time set apart to honor the many sorrows and the many joys that you, the congregation, are living, and to acknowledge the mutual support of our community. Today, I will light 1 candle for all those who are here with us or in our thoughts, who are struggling mentally, physically, financially, or emotionally. And we will also light 1 candle for all the joys that are in the room, the big joys that come along only infrequently, and the little joys that we are blessed by every day if we are able to see them. Each week, I invite anyone with a joy or a sorrow to share at this time, to relay their thoughts to me by email. Later, when we stop the live streaming on YouTube, And before the coffee hour begins, I will invite anyone else to share a joy or a sorrow and have a candle lit if they would like to do so. So now I am so excited to introduce a song called Peace Be With Us. It is going to be our reflective hymn today. It is by Anna Hernandez, Ruth Cunningham, and the vocals are Jane Lewis, Lee Morris, also guitar, Brian Sims, keyboard, and Kristen Jones, cello. And I think it's very important to name the musicians because it's a wonderful rendition. So, and now let's listen to Peace Be With Us.
Peace be with me, peace before me, peace to the right of me, peace behind me, peace to the left of me, peace above me, peace below me, peace within. Peace be with you, peace before you, peace to the right of you, peace behind you, peace to the left of you, peace above you, peace below you, peace within. Peace be with us, peace before us, peace to the right of us, peace behind us, peace to the left of us, peace above us, peace below us, peace within. Peace be with us, peace before us, peace to the right of us, peace behind us, peace to the left of us, peace above us, peace below us, peace within. Peace within, peace within, peace within.
Peace within. May the joys and sorrows, both those acknowledged here this morning and those held in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, weave us together in the interdependent fabric of community. So this summer we haven't been having time for all ages, but this has been, this is a very enjoyable musical time for all ages. So it is done by Stephen Priest, their music director. And after is the reflection by Reverend Jess. So please enjoy.
Woodpecker loved looking for bugs to eat in the trees. But even more than the tasty little bugs, Woodpecker loved the sound of the trees. She loved how every tree made a different sound. She loved the resonance and the rhythm. One day, when she was looking for food and enjoying the sound of the trees, she heard a sound she had never heard before. It sounded like a frog singing. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. Da-doom, doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom. Who are you? She called out. Hearing your song together with my rhythm, that makes all the difference. Well, my name is Frog, and I love to sing to myself. So when I heard you making that sound, I just couldn't help but sing along. After that, they got together every week to make their music together. One time when they were playing, they heard a cricket in the grass, adding some more rhythm. And then as they continued to gather, other animals joined in. There were elephants that heard them and came over and stomped along on the ground in rhythm with the other animals. There was a squirrel that found some seed pods in the trees. And there were birds that loved to sing their favorite songs in harmony together. They noticed that their forest band sounded the best when they all did something different so that everyone could be heard. They noticed that each animal made the prettiest sounds when they listened to all the other animals very carefully. Now one time, the forest band was playing together, and a very loud chimpanzee showed up and began playing on a hollow log. The chimpanzee made so much noise that no one could even hear themselves. And the chimpanzee just played as many notes as possible, as fast as possible. Everyone else stopped playing and just looked at the chimpanzee, who said, "Well, I love playing music with you all." Needless to say, rehearsal ended early that day. All the other animals slithered and swam and flew and trotted away until it was just chimpanzee and woodpecker together. The woodpecker decided that she needed to talk with chimpanzee. "Music isn't just about playing loudly," she said. "It's about listening to the other animals around you. You can't make music if you don't listen to the sounds the other animals are making. Music is about rest and silence just as much as it's about noise and vibration. We need both." Together, woodpecker and chimpanzee practiced making some sounds and then leaving some silence, playing some notes and then leaving some rest. And wouldn't you know that even chimpanzee thought it sounded better that way? Finding the way our sound fits into the whole, finding what unique sound is ours to add, makes all the difference. Our brains and our bodies, for that matter, are designed for this kind of balance. To speak up and then to listen. To move and then to rest. To play our part and then leave space for other voices.
So how has your morning gone so far? Imagine beginning your day the way Margaret Fuller described. At age 15, she wrote, I rise a little before 5, walk an hour, and then practice on the piano till 7 when we breakfast. Next, I read French, Sismondi's Literature of the South of Europe. She ends this same letter saying, I feel the power of industry growing every day. And besides the all-powerful motive of ambition and a new stimulus, I have learned to believe that nothing is unattainable. It's a theme of her hard-driving, ambitious life. Her father's challenge was the force behind the education that Margaret received. He once wrote from his Senate office in Washington to reinforce his consistent message of conditional affection. Tell Margaret I love her if she learns to read. And she did, at age 3. By the time Margaret Fuller was 9 years old, she read literature in 4 languages, translated Virgil and Cicero, and wrote literary critiques of major European philosophic and literary texts. Each night, at the end of Margaret's grueling day of scholarship, when her father returned home late from work, he would enter her bedroom and awaken her, carrying her to his study and make her recount what she had learned during the day. Reflecting on the years she endured this paternal invasive abuse, Fuller said, I did not go mad, as many would do, at being continually roused from my dreams. I had too much strength to be crushed, and since I must put on the fetters, could not submit to let them impede my motions. My own world sank deep within, away from the surface of my life. In what I did and said, I learned to have reference to other minds. But my true life was only the dearer that it was secluded and veiled by a thick curtain of available intellect, and that coarse but wearable stuff, woven by the ages, common sense. Fuller's early education as a girl was extraordinary. Her father set her on an academic rigor usually afforded only to boys. By the time he decided he was in error and had maybe handicapped his daughter by saddling her with information, curiosity, and desires unbecoming to a potential wife, he abruptly switched gears in Margaret's teen years and sent her to learn about etiquette and household maintenance. Alas, the die was already cast, and uncertain of what to do with her hard-won academic achievements in a society that insisted women be silent and compliant, Margaret felt confused and conflicted. She wrote, For all the tides of life that flow within me, I am dumb and ineffectual. With the intellect, I always have, always shall overcome. But that is not the half of the work. The life, oh my God, shall the life never be sweet? As perhaps part of his belated re-education plan, her father forced Margaret at age 21 to attend a Thanksgiving church service. The experience grated on her nerves. As soon as she could, she raced for the meditative woods outside town. There, she had the first of a series of mystical epiphanies that came to her in times of turmoil throughout the rest of her life. She wrote in her journal, How is it that I seem to be this Margaret Fuller? What does it mean? What shall I do about it? I saw there was no self, that selfishness was all folly, that it was only because I thought self real that I suffered, that I had only to live in the idea of the all, and all was mine. Fuller concluded her epiphany decreeing, I accept the universe. And while that famous comment is oft mocked, her sincerity is in affirming an everlasting yea to the circumstances she was dealt, as the woman she was in the world she roamed, not in resignation, but in recognition of her relative singularity and aloneness. And then tragedy. Margaret's father died of cholera. Though their relationship had been fraught, her father was her one tether to affection, devotion, and approval. She'd been so emotionally dependent on him that his sudden death presented a full identity crisis for her. At age 25, Margaret Fuller undertook the grueling work of uniting her two souls, the intellectual and the intuitive, the mind and the heart, thoughts and feelings. Through seclusion and internal searching for the divine within, she found a will toward transformation as she discovered herself. She wrote to a friend about this internal conversion experience. She wrote, "Truly you say I have not been what I am now, yet it is only transformation, not alteration. The leaf became a stem, a bud is now in flower. Winds of heaven, dews of night, circles of time, already ye make haste to convert this flower into dead seeming seed, yet far fairer shall it bloom again." Lest this vein of spiritual experience be misunderstood, Fuller also wrote, "All around us lies what we neither understand nor use. Our capacities, our instincts for this, our present sphere, are but half developed. Let us confine ourselves to that till the lesson be learned. Let us be completely natural before we trouble ourselves with this supernatural. Transcendence, after all, is not a matter of mysticism, but of attentiveness to the reality of life." Emerging from this period, at age 26, she first met Unitarian minister, the legendary Ralph Waldo Emerson. He introduced her to transcendentalism, for her a religious affirmation of the life of the mind. Put in its simplest terms, transcendentalism is a philosophy that maintains that people have knowledge about themselves and the world around them that transcends or goes beyond what they can actually see, hear, taste, touch, or feel. After an evening walk with Emerson, Fuller recorded one of their many divergences of opinion, how he was constantly analyzing nature, never satisfied with mere life, while she rested in its fullness as a thing unto itself. She wrote, "Looking at the moon in the river, Waldo said, how promising nature never fulfills what she thus gives us a right to expect." I said, "I never could meet him here. The beauty does not stimulate me to ask why and press to the center. I was satisfied for the moment, full as if my existence was filled out, for nature had said the very word that was lying in my heart." Then we had an excellent talk. We agreed that my God was love, his truth. Waldo said that these statements alternate, of course, in every mind. The only difference was in which you were most at home, that he liked the pure mathematics of the thing. For all their differences and sometimes contentious relationship, Emerson said of Fuller that she made me laugh more than I liked, but her conversations were the most entertaining in America, and so was everywhere a welcome guest. As for Margaret, she found Emerson's company stimulating and influential, but she also said it was more the case that they interchanged facts rather than conversation. In her quest To unify head and heart, mind and body, Fuller determined that any faith worth having must be one that could be put into action. She became an international advocate for human rights. Again, ahead of her time, she preached freedom for the enslaved African, economic rights for the poor, federal rights for Native Americans, and civil rights for all women. She called for a new humanity for her colleagues and peers, those hyper-rational Boston Unitarian elite who she believed did not sufficiently consider the role of emotions in our lives. Fuller counseled other young women, saying, I must take my own path and learn from them all without being paralyzed for today. We need great energy and self-reliance to endure today. My age may not be the best, my position may be bad, my character ill-formed, but thou, O Spirit, hast no regard to aught but the seeking heart. And if I try to walk upright, wilt thou guide me? What despair must he feel who, after a whole life passed in trying to build himself up, resolves that it would have been far better had he kept still as the clod of the valley, or yielded easily as the leaf to every breeze? A path has been appointed me. I have walked in it as steadily as I could. I am what I am. That which I am not, teach me in the others. By her late 20s, Margaret was an established journalist, the first woman to write for a major newspaper and a well-respected reporter and social activist, exposing conditions in prisons and asylums and urging for humane reforms. And then, at age 33, she published a book about women's lives called Woman in the 19th Century. She broke every established social rule of gender-assigned roles and expectations, and then memorialized these dangerous opinions in writing. She said, it is no more the order of nature that it should be incarnated pure in any form than that the masculine energy should exist unmingled with it in any form. Male and female represent the two sides of the great radical dualism. But in fact, they are perpetually passing into one another. Fluid hardens to solid, solid rushes to fluid. There is no wholly masculine man, no purely feminine woman. Nature provides exceptions to every rule. Opinions this radical were a horror to polite society, and she was reviled for this idea of gender equality. One critic wrote, every fact, word, thought, idea, theory, notion, line, verse that crowded in the cranium of Margaret Fuller was a weapon. They shot from her like pellets from a steam gun. She bristled all over with transcendentalism, assaulted you with metaphysics, suffocated you with mythology, peppered you with ethics, and struck you down with heavy history. We think it is not a nice book for English ladies. The intensity, pressure, and sustained criticism proved too much even for the indomitable Margaret Fuller, and she sought a position, partly as an escape, to be a foreign correspondent for the Tribune overseas, and eventually settled in Rome. It was there, despite years of vows of renunciation of love and motherhood, that Margaret Fuller fell in love with a young Italian nobleman, and at age 38, she gave birth to a son in the midst of the turmoil and violence of a socialist revolution. Because of their active roles in that conflict, Rome became dangerous for the little family, and ultimately, they decided to set sail for America, where Margaret was hopeful to find a publisher for her latest book, A History of the Roman Republic, and the family could begin a new life in New York City. The 5-week transatlantic journey was marked with trauma, drama, and an outbreak of smallpox. At its final stage, mere yards from the Jersey shore, the ship slammed into a sandbar and capsized. Among those lost aboard were Margaret, her new husband, and their baby. Margaret Fuller was just 40 years old. The intelligentsia of America set to work right away to capitalize on the sensational death by publishing biographies, one of which was written by her friend Emerson. But because the elite at the time felt certain that any interest in such a woman would soon fade from history, and because her private life was problematic by the social standards of the day set for women, these were heavily edited, woefully inaccurate, and focused on her abrasive personality and her unconventional appearance, rather than on her accomplishments and contributions. While her peers Emerson and Thoreau went on to become revered in later years, Fuller was ridiculed and trivialized, made a footnote to her male colleagues' hagiographies, her influence eclipsed by their considerable shadows, and always with a caveat that Margaret Fuller was indeed intelligent for a woman.
We will now hear Jane Lewis sing a musical piece, You Gotta Look Inside. You can sing along to her, and then after, let's go to the Grand River Unitarians once again.
There is no roadmap for these times, but if you want to ease your mind, you gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. There is no roadmap for these days, but if you want to find some grace, you gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. I know your heart is crying, please, but if you want to find some peace, you gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You gotta look inside. You look into the stars above, but you got all you need, and that is love. Look inside, you gotta look inside, you gotta look inside, you gotta look inside, come on and look inside, you gotta look inside, come on and look inside.
Unitarian Universalist Tandeka gives us this challenge in reclaiming Fuller's voice and influence. In her survey of UU theology called What Moves Us, Tandeka writes, Margaret Fuller showed us how the human heart transforms liberal faith into action. Can she help us today to find our religion of the human heart? One insight from the work of Margaret Fuller is to help us focus attention on how we sometimes lose heart and how our faith community helps us to regain what we have lost, a deeply private, personal sense of integrity and wholeness. Fuller had to hide what she felt, but she refused to go mad, as she put it. Instead, she went back to the place where she had lost heart. Can you think of a time in your life when you were discouraged and had to tuck away your feelings in order to get by? Can you think of a time when you or someone you know had to struggle to keep their personal integrity intact? That is, struggling to take heart. What can we do as a practice of our faith to help ourselves or someone else stay the course?
So now we're going to do a little new segment here called What Did You Learn? So we will have these questions on the slides right now, and I will read you the questions, and you can think about what it means to you. So, number 1, can you think of a time in your life when you were discouraged and had to tuck away your feelings in order to get by? Number 2, can you think of a time when you or someone you know had to struggle to keep their personal integrity intact, that is struggling to take heart? And number 3, what might we do as a practice of our faith to help ourselves or someone else stay the course? Something to think about. Reverend Jess will now reflect on these questions briefly, and after, please sing along to our closing hymn, Standing on the Side of Love.
Fuller's response to her own dilemma of bifurcation was that her passions must be put into action. In closing, I will share her answer to these questions. I have pledged myself to nothing. God and the soul and nature are all my creed. Subdivisions are unimportant. I act for myself, but prescribe for none other. The soul says to us all, cherish your best hopes as a faith and abide by them in action. Such shall be the effectual, fervent means to their fulfillment. What is done here at home in my heart is my religion. May it be so.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are standing on the side of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to obey. We are standing on the side of love. Sometimes are standing on the side of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together as largely as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim, we are standing on the side of love. We are standing on the side of
We are standing on the side of love. We needed to have some music from the music director in here too. I miss singing. They had such great music, and I left out a whole bunch because it was an hour and a half, I believe. So I had to pick what I thought was, I thought I picked what would be appropriate for the amount of time. So, as I extinguish the chalice, Eleanor will read words by Margaret Fuller that will appear on your screen.
If you have knowledge, let others light their candles at it. If you have knowledge, let others light their candles in it. If you have knowledge, let others light their candles in it. Thank you.
Thank you who all attended here in the sanctuary, by Zoom or by YouTube. I will say goodbye to those who joined us now on YouTube as we end our live streaming. For those who joined by Zoom, in a few minutes we will return to sharing joys and sorrows, followed by our virtual coffee hour. The streaming service will now end.